Trump is for the people, he really understands us. Really. So, like, when he demands that all the homeless folks in Washington, D.C. get up and leave and, quote, go far away, you think that demonstrates how for the people he is?
Donald Trump wants all the homeless people inside of Washington, D.C. to leave immediately. That's what he wrote on Truth Social, saying, "We will give you places to stay, but far from the Capitol. The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong." So, wait, first of all, where do you want the homeless to go? And where do they, do you want them to show up to the White House and be like, yeah, I'm here, where are you sending me to?
So he's making it clear that Chicago, Los Angeles, he's coming there too.
We're going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster.
He called Gavin Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom.
Gavin Newsom is incompetent.
Homeless individuals will be given the option to leave their encampment, to be taken to a homeless shelter, to be offered addiction or mental health services, and if they refuse, they will be susceptible to fines or to jail time.
Starting tomorrow, there will be no more homeless people allowed in Washington, D.C. The president just made this post on social media announcing his plans for tomorrow, saying, "We're having a news conference tomorrow in the White House. I'm going to make our Capitol safer and more beautiful than it ever was before."
So Donald Trump has officially made being homeless illegal. Yep, you heard me. And Washington, D.C., oh, that's the first place getting cleaned up. Now, depending on who you ask, this is either the boldest fix in history or the political equivalent of putting a Band-Aid on a shark bite. And trust me, America is not happy. TikTok is having a full-blown meltdown. Now, look, sometimes even if your intentions are to help, there's still a right way and a wrong way to do it. And spoiler alert, the wrong way usually involves creating headlines like this. So for the next few minutes, let's drop the whole blue versus red thing, forget the party loyalty, and just look at this like actual human beings. Because the stuff we're about to see, oh, it's a lot. All right, grab your coffee, grab your popcorn, maybe grab a stress ball, because you're going to need it. Let's roll the clip.
Yesterday, I pretended to be homeless for 3 hours, and I realized that if you're homeless, you're there by choice.
Imagine that. 3 hours, and now they're an expert.
Like, you are there by choice, 100% having that experience, just the way that I chose to go experience that by choice. It's just, the only difference is the stories that you're telling yourself. So if you want to experience homelessness, you want to experience what it would be like to lose everything, you can go have that experience. Or you're welcome to create a bunch of bullshit stories in your life that force you, quote unquote, force you into that experience. But even when you go by force, it's still by choice, because you wanted to have that experience. You just created a bunch of excuses for why you gave yourself permission to have it.
Oh yes, I'm sure that's it. People subconsciously just wanted to be homeless, so they unwittingly made events happen in their lives so that they could be that way, just to fulfill that unconscious dream, right?
It's just like any other experience that we have in life. It's no worse or better than having a home. It's no, different than anything else, but the experience does show you how much you take for granted.
Did one really just say that being homeless is no worse or better than having a home? Wow. Thanks for showing the world that there are truly some individuals out there that have absolutely lived a life of privilege and have never really had to truly go without anything.
Now, the reason I kicked off this video with that clip, credits to Lady J on TikTok, is because there are so many people who think exactly like that. You know the type, those people on the street just want to be there crowd. The ones who think homelessness is some sort of lifestyle choice. They'll tell you, well, if they just worked harder, if they were a better example of the American dream, basically parroting what billionaires have been spoon-feeding us for decades. That if you're homeless, it's because you didn't pull yourself up by your magical imaginary bootstraps. And if you didn't, well, that's on you. But hang tight, because I want you to hear from someone who's actually been in the trenches. Someone who's worked at a homeless shelter and knows the reality, not just the billionaire bedtime story. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Something I want people to understand about our homeless population in the United States is that it is majorly disabled people. I used to work at homeless shelters and I did the data collection for our grants, and I would collect information on the demographics, and over 60%, I think it was around 68, 65, somewhere in there, were disabled. And an even higher number were mentally ill, comorbid. were either physically disabled, mentally disabled. Almost every single person I worked with who was homeless had some form of disability. Homeless people are the people our system has failed. The other uniting factor between almost everybody I met who was homeless is they didn't have supportive family and community. The only difference between a disabled person who's in a home and a disabled person who is on the streets is they have people to support them and help them. Or their family just lives in poverty and just simply does not have the means to help and support them. The other 20% were people who went through some catastrophic event and don't have family and friends with the means to help them. That's the demographics of our homeless population. Oh, but what about the drug addicts? Most of the people I met were on drugs because they were coping with being homeless. They were coping with being disabled. They were self-medicating because they had mental health struggles. This is our society's most vulnerable populations. These are the people we should be helping the most that have fallen through the cracks. And the fact that we are making their existence illegal right now is the most disgusting dystopian shit. They just want to hide the most visible symptom of how massively we have failed to set up our social services in this country.
Did you hear that? A lot of these people are disabled in some way. Others are dealing with serious mental illness. And sure, it's easy to sit back and say, oh, well, their mental illness must be because of drugs and alcohol. Okay, Mr. Sigmund Freud, tell me, do you really think people deliberately choose to get addicted? Because here's the thing. Some folks end up using drugs after they lose everything. Imagine this. 2 jobs, barely sleeping, doing everything right, and then one day your kid gets sick. Medical bills wipe out your savings, rent's due, and boom, just like that, you're on the street. People go through all kinds of pain before they ever get here. And let's not forget, a heartbreaking number of the homeless out there are veterans. Yep, the same people who fought wars and risked their lives so Americans can, argue about Wi-Fi speeds and pumpkin spice lattes in peace. And then some of you still have the nerve to say they haven't worked hard enough. Yeah, let's keep watching.
Trump is for the people, he really understands us. Really. So when he demands that all the homeless folks in Washington, D.C. get up and leave and, quote, go far away, you think that demonstrates how for the people he is? Homeless people who are well known for their flush with cash status and ability to make drastic life choices on the drop of a fucking hat? This miserable prick has never experienced life without a golden spoon up his ass, and you're sitting there acting like he's one of us. Let me learn you something here, Cletus. You are now, and always will be, closer to homeless than you ever will be to Trump. He could lose 99% of his fucking wealth, and that would still be fucking true. So fuck you for the fact that you're more than willing to demonize the homeless community as being the cause of crime in Washington, D.C., like you didn't elect a 34-time convicted felon sex predator to go sit at 1600 Pennsylvania Ave for the next 4 fucking years. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like if you motherfuckers could see the hypocrisy in every goddamn thing you say. But apparently that will never come true because you seem to spout it at every goddamn turn. So get fucked.
Now forgive the young man's F-bombs if you're sensitive, but let's be real, the kid is spitting facts. And before you sprint to the comments to call me a lib, let me save you the trouble. I don't play the politics game. I figured out a long time ago that red and blue are just heads and tails of the same coin. Here's the thing. You've been sold this fairy tale that presidents run your country, which is hilarious because if voting actually made a difference, do you really think they'd let you do it? Now, I'm not trying to sound like your neighborhood tinfoil hat guy, but unless you live under a rock, it's no secret who your politicians really work for. And spoiler, it's not you. They work for the wealthy class. And I'm not talking about your average millionaire with a yacht and a country club membership. I mean billionaires, the Peter Thiels of the world. And this kid is right. Many will cheer for Trump without realizing he doesn't need you and could not care less if you were homeless by tomorrow, even if you voted for him. His job is to serve the oligarchs, and they don't lose sleep over you. Meanwhile, everyday people are too busy arguing with each other like they're the enemy, while the real power brokers sip champagne and watch the show. If you want a rude awakening, pick up the book The Rich Boy and see what they really think of human beings. Spoiler alert, you're not a citizen in their eyes. You're a disposable commodity, kind of like the free breadsticks at Olive Garden. Enjoy them while they last because they're not being refilled.
That the United States of America is the most backwards country on the face of the earth. Let me ask you a question. What would an actual leader do in this situation? Well, an actual leader would say, oh my God, I see homeless tents everywhere. Maybe this is a systemic problem. Maybe this is something that I should work on because I'm sure that this is happening all over America. I mean, after all, the man has a majority of both houses of Congress. The man used to be a real estate developer, so I'm sure he knows something about zoning laws that are causing prices of real estate to go up. That's not the only thing, but it's one of the things that are causing prices to go up. Surely he can do something. Not this guy. Not this guy. Our president, who is a literal billionaire, is blaming people who have nothing and telling them to leave. Where are they going to go, and how are they going to get there? And is this fixing the problem? It is a billionaire telling people who have nothing that they are the problem. That is the society in which we live, and that is what this tweet is telling the entire world, okay? I want to remind you that another reason that housing prices go up is the rising costs of construction. Who is putting tariffs on Canadian lumber? He is. Who is keeping interest rates high because the tariffs are keeping inflation high? He is. Canada put a halt on foreign investments into housing, okay? And I honestly think that the United States should at least do the very same, okay? Because one of the reasons is that the housings keep getting bought up by foreign investments and hedge fund investments, and that's what's causing these prices to go up. But nobody is doing a thing about it. I mean, she had a plan to do something about it, but, you know, she had an annoying laugh, so I guess we couldn't have that in office. And I just don't want to hear that this can't be done, because other countries have been able to do this. Even cities like Salt Lake City have been able to greatly mitigate their homeless problems. They've been able to do it. I don't see why we can't. Any leader would look at the problem, and instead of saying, you need to leave, like, hey, why don't we go ahead and fix this? And that is why we are the most backwards country on the face of the earth.
Calling America the most backwards country might be a stretch, and hey, call me cuckoo, but I still have hope for this place, mostly because I see more and more people online starting to wake up. But I get where bro is coming from. And then he brought up that billionaire thing again. Yeah, having a billionaire as president, that's definitely giving backwards, if we're being honest. People love to say, oh, but he didn't take a salary, he doesn't need the money. And I'm over here like, oh, you sweet, naive summer child, who's going to break it to you? Do you realize these people literally write policies that make themselves richer? Trump launched a meme coin right before he was sworn in. One of those classic crypto pump and dump schemes that tanked and cost people their money, while he walked away with millions. You think he cares about the presidential salary? Please. He can change policies to suit himself and his billionaire buddies on a Tuesday before brunch. Meanwhile, members of Congress are thriving on insider trading like it's their side hustle. You think they care about salaries? These people are funded by AIPAC, getting millions to carry out someone else's bidding. And then, just to add insult to injury, they turn around and tell you that you're the problem.
I need you to hear this. Today, the president said that Washington, D.C. will be liberated. He went on to say that crime, savagery, filth, and scum will disappear. Disappear in all capital letters. This is propaganda 101. Politicians use words like filth and scum. History has showed us time and time again that they're talking about actual people, real human beings. And in this case, they're talking about our homeless population. Our administration is trying to turn its citizens against the homeless population. It is trying to change the thought process in your mind to view people who are without a home as filth, scum, criminals, and savages. That's exactly what that was. But see, here's the truth. Becoming homeless is shockingly easy. One horrific medical diagnosis, a job loss, a rent hike that you can't afford are just a few things that could lead you or your neighbor to be sleeping on the street. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh, that would never happen to me because I could just go to so-and-so's house, that's called privilege. Privilege is not a bad thing if you recognize that you might have it and someone else might not. Because someone doesn't have family to go to, are they now savages, criminals, filth, and scum? It is not a crime to lose your home. It is not savagery to need help. And the homelessness in the United States is because of a broken system, not a filthy person. Propaganda posts like this prime people to see their neighbors, the most vulnerable homeless population, as a group of people that need to disappear, a group of people that need to be eliminated. That propaganda paves the way for people to be cruel and mean towards a group of people that need kindness and compassion. And I am over this dehumanizing language. You need to push back on that. Calling homeless people savages and filth, are you kidding me? We need to be speaking out to remind our leaders and ourselves that kindness and policy that is grounded in dignity is the only way to help our homeless population. If you see someone struggling on the street, your first thought should not be scum. It should be, how can I help my neighbor? Love thy neighbor.
Now, this lady here, she's attacked the psychology of what's going on, and honestly, she's right on the money. There's an entire body of research on something called dehumanization. Psychologists have found that when you label a group with words like filth, scum, or savages, you're not just insulting them, you're rewiring how people think about them. Once you start seeing human beings as less than human, it becomes much easier to justify mistreating them. History's receipts are ugly, but clear. In Rwanda, radio broadcasts called the Tutsi cockroaches before the genocide. Language meant to strip them of their humanity, so killing them seemed less like murder and more like pest control. In Nazi Germany, Jewish people were labeled rats in propaganda films and posters, priming the public to accept horrific atrocities. Even in the USV during Japanese internment in World War II, politicians and media painted an entire group as dangerous outsiders who didn't deserve the same rights as, quote, real Americans. And now here we are with leaders tossing around, quote, filth and, quote, scum about our homeless neighbors. It's not just rhetoric, it's a strategy, one that's been used time and time again to get ordinary people to turn on each other, while the real power stays comfortably untouched. The question is, are we sharp enough to see it before the damage is done? And here's where it clicks. This isn't just political posturing, it's the billionaire's blueprint in action. We already talked about the rich boy and how it shows exactly what the ultra-wealthy think of human beings. Disposable commodities to be moved around, removed, or repurposed when they no longer serve the bottom line. This makes perfect sense when you look at what's planned for DC. Cleaning up instead of just about reducing crime, it's about making space. He's setting up a so-called Freedom City for one of his oligarch buddies. That's the game. And like clockwork, it's always called a conspiracy until it happens. Watch what this lady has to say about it.
A month ago, I told you all about sources within the federal government who said Donald Trump was secretly planning to take over Washington, D.C. and turn it into a corporate-controlled Freedom City. Well, now that Donald Trump just announced that the National Guard, the FBI, and the DEA will be taking over the district by force, now is probably a good time to go over what these federal government insiders said was going to happen next. We already know Trump is lying about why he's taking over D.C. He claims that it's because of rampant crime, when really crime rates have gone down somewhere between 30 and 40% in the last few years. Reports suggest that his real plan is to turn DC into the first of many freedom cities, which are corporate-controlled areas governed entirely by what they call CEO kings. I know it sounds crazy and conspiratorial, but the people advocating for these freedom cities aren't keeping it a secret either, and the Freedom City Caucus was present at Donald Trump's inauguration. It's largely groups of tech billionaires who want to be free from taxation and government regulation. A month ago, my sources told me that Trump's plan was to give DC to billionaire Peter Thiel, owner of Palantir, the AI surveillance company. You know, the guy who said that it wasn't essential for humanity to survive the growth of new technology. The worst part is that those who predicted this DC takeover have said that it won't stop here. The intention is to use DC as a prototype for expansion, to set a precedent for the federal government being able to take over territories and put corporations in control. Their stated intention is to make the government obsolete to the power of billionaires, for us to mostly live in areas that are controlled by by Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. It's not a conspiracy anymore, folks. It's a plan in action that we have to organize against before it's too late.
There are over 700,000 homeless people in America. Men, women, children, veterans sleeping in tents, cars, storage units, alleyways. And do you know how many vacant homes there are? Over 16 million. Let that sink in. There's more empty houses than homeless humans. Yet somehow they convince you that homelessness is a failure of the person. Nah, it's a decision, a choice made by the system. A system that would rather let a home sit empty and rot than let someone live in it without a profit. Is the system broken? It's not. It's functioning exactly how it was designed. Because if they can convince you that going homeless is a personal failure, then they never have to take responsibility and fix this system. And the worst part, housing isn't scarce. Compassion is, but the empty buildings, they're everywhere. And the only thing that stands between a roof and a human being is a fucking price tag. And a system that sees property as more valuable than human beings. We solved homelessness on paper, then the system crumpled it up and lit it on fire. A system that was built to protect profit, not people.
How far does Trump have to take this for y'all to realize this is 1930s Germany? How far does he have to take this for y'all to realize this is 1940s Italy? This is Mussolini. This is fascism at its highest. It's so infuriating that y'all are not seeing it. And we told y'all not to vote for him. And now that we told y'all this over and over and over and over again, we the ones that have to deal with the consequences. DC, Maryland, Virginia, the DMV, people who work in the city. They're federalizing DC police. They're sending the National Guard. They're deploying the National Guard. DC isn't even top 10 in crimes in the country. The 10th most dangerous city in America is in Colorado. There's no National Guard going to Colorado. I mean, how far does he have to take this? There's no freedom of press. He's deploying the National Guard. He's attacking the homeless and the children in D.C. He's comparing D.C. to Bogota, Colombia. Does he just wake up and just spew out nonsense and then just deploy things? And who the... The amount of power and the amount of unconstitutional things that he's been able to do, it hasn't even been a year. It's barely been 6 months. I don't know, y'all. I don't even know what to say. Like,
I can't be outside for 5 minutes in Las Vegas without thinking about the homeless. Y'all, it's so hot. I'm in the shade and I'm still burning up. Now imagine I ain't got no water. I'm carrying 3-4 bags or pushing some big ass cart that's got like 20-30 pounds of stuff in it all day in the heat. Can't really sit and get comfortable because everywhere I go, employees at different businesses are looking at me up and down like I'm not supposed to be in there. The shelter is crowded. People keep talking about get a job, but do you really think I have my social security card and my birth certificate on me and my ID? One thing I really want us to start thinking about too, when we're telling homeless people to find jobs or we're confused as to why they can't find jobs, just remember that we all have to do an I-9 when we start work, right? I think it should be a law that if you don't have a home, if you don't have a residence, that you are able to get paid in a certain type of way. Maybe it's a card or something. So you're still working for it. It's not free money. You still have to work for it. But it's a card or something that's maybe just attached to your... I don't even know how they would attach it because you don't have any paperwork. Like you don't have your driver's license. You don't have your social security card. You don't have your birth certificate. How would they know that you're who you say you are? We have to figure out how to get around that, you guys, because that's a big part of it. I hear what people are saying when they say, well, why can't homeless people get jobs? But that's the thing that they don't be thinking about. I'm sorry, the homeless is on my mind because I'm just outside in the heat, and I can't believe that people act like homeless folks are the bad guys in this heat. It is too hot to care if a person is homeless or not when they come in to your business. I don't know. We just have to do better. Okay.
Y'all can celebrate what they're doing now, at least those of you who are. And let me be clear, I'm not against a clean, crime-free DC or even a clean, crime-free America. I'm just looking at this through a wider lens. Because what I know for a fact is that the agenda here is way bigger than most people realize. Sure, today you might be thrilled about what's happening, but remember, if you're not part of the elite, sooner or later you're going to be on the chopping block. Their motto, you will own nothing and you will be happy. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, if they make us broke, how do they expect us to buy their stuff? Oh, sweet summer child, who's going to explain this to you? Peter Thiel was once asked in an interview about humanity's survival, and he literally choked before saying, "It depends." Excuse me, depends? That's not exactly comforting. Then you've got people like Billy Boy, who's been pretty open about wanting to reduce the global population by, let's just say, jabbing everyone silly. But sure, keep believing capitalism and the ultra-rich are your protectors, and that your real enemy is the neighbor struggling down the street. I'll leave you with this next video.
The world's problems are caused by overpopulation. I completely disagree, and here's why. The only reason there are so many people on this planet is because the system incentivized mass reproduction for 150 years. Why? Because they needed endless workers and endless consumers for an economic model that runs on overproduction and overconsumption. Capitalism built this reality. It's not nature. This is not an accident. They designed industries that make products that break, so you buy again. They turned resources into disposable garbage for profit. They destroyed local economies so people had no choice but to become cheap labor in global supply chains. And when the machine needed more hands, what did they do? They incentivized bigger families. Entire policies were built to fuel population growth. And now the same system that overfilled the planet points the finger back at you and says that you're the problem. No. Capitalism is the problem. Capitalism polluted the rivers, poisoned the oceans, burned the forests. Not because you had kids, but because profit demanded extraction at any costs. So stop falling for the smokescreen. Overpopulation didn't cause poverty. Systems designed on infinite growth did. Overpopulation didn't destroy ecosystems. Corporations driven by profit margins did. And here is the darkest trick. They want you to blame humanity, so you accept fewer rights, more control, and even population reduction as progress. Don't let them rebrand their failure as your guilt. Overpopulation isn't the disease, it's the excuse.
Just remember, it doesn't cost you a thing to look out for your brother or sister. And hey, if I ruffled your feathers with this video, take it easy. Go grab a coffee, breathe a little. I know for a fact all this stress has me craving another espresso myself. Catch you in the next one.